Hey, this is Brandon Split from ThirstStream.com. Today we're going to talk about the best exercise for combat sport athletes. These are going to be athletes like boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling in particular. So if you happen to play one of these sports, make sure you're doing these exercises. So the first two exercises are going to be grip intensive for the most part. Now these sports usually require a strong grip as you're grabbing appendages, whether it be arms, legs, doing snap downs, different activities of that range where your grip is going to determine your success with a lot of the moves and the things that you're able to do. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is doing some kind of heavy inverted row with weird objects. That can be with battle ropes, fat grips, axle bars, anything that's going to challenge your grip but still working on your rowing, because the truth of the matter is, not only having the strength to grab something and hold on to it, usually you're trying to take possession of that limb or what you're trying to hold on to, so you want to be able to actually make sure that you can actually pull it towards you. Same thing when it comes to like chin-ups, lat pull downs. Anytime you can use a fat grip implement, that's probably going to help you not only develop your grip strength but in a way that you're going to use it on the mat or in combat. And the second part of that in terms of grip training is going to be different loaded carries like farmer's walks and offset suitcase carries and things of that nature, because you do want to overload that grip to improve its strength but also get some bang for your buck out of it, so getting some extra abdominal and trunk control out of those exercises so you can kind of turn two birds with one stone. I really like farmer's carries and suitcase carries and different loaded carry variations like that. You can even do different kind of zercher carries as well, while that may not tax the grip as much, you're still getting that loaded carry. But farmer's carries and suitcase carries are the two that I really like for combat sport athletes. The next exercise is going to be a single arm kettlebell snatch. Now, while I like the regular snatch, I think it's a fantastic exercise, I really like doing this with a one arm variation, because again, coming back to the sport, you're probably going to be using one arm at some point to be able to pull something up or trying to get some extension, or you're trying to pull underneath somebody, and usually you're having to work your arms independently. And so therefore, I like to train that triple extension from the kettlebell snatch, but implementing it with one arm at a time. And as an added bonus, again, we get extra abdominal and trunk strength and control by doing that, because it is going to be an offset load. No matter where we're catching it, our abs have to be in control of what our trunk is doing, so we kind of get a better bang for your buck there. So this is really going to help more with your throws and again, trying to grab limbs and be explosive. But again, you can also do this for repeated power, which we'll talk about here later, but you can do some repeated power work and from your conditioning and use this as part of a conditioning circuit if you're trying to bring up that aerobic system or even develop repeated power from an anaerobic based perspective. The next exercise we're going to talk about is going to be the zercher squat. And the reason I like the zercher squat is because it's going to mimic actually having to hold something out in front of us, an arm or a leg or something like that, as we have to go to actually pick somebody up. Again, I think the front squat is another good option if you don't really like the zercher squat. But for me, if I had to pick one, I'm going to lean towards the zercher squat. And as again, I really like to train this for strength qualities. For generally sets of 2 to 4 and looking at usually anywhere from 2 to 5 reps. That's going to get our lower body involved, but still again, develop our upper back strength, get some abdominal strength, and mimic the sport to some extent, because usually that sport is very anterior loaded. We're doing everything in front, and as we go to grab stuff, we're usually grabbing it here or pulling, getting close or in by our side. Everything is out in front of us. So again, I think that usually works best to try to get some kind of transfer over to the sport. And generally also, you're going to use less weight doing a zercher squat than you are like a back squat or something, so you can kind of still get the same progress in terms of the strength adaptations that you're after without having to use as much load, which could be great if you got a crazy practice or fight schedule. Okay, for this next one, I don't have a particular exercise. I have two in mind, which would be like doing bike sprints or a ski erg or med ball slams, but really talking about repeated power. We kind of mentioned this earlier, but developing your repeated power through something that's going to help you at your sport. So again, the ski erg or using a bike is going to really challenge you to develop a super amount of power in a short period amount of time, but it's also going to train your energy systems for when you need those large bursts. But we want to make sure that we can repeat that that, again, repeated power. So that might be 15 to 20 seconds on an air dive as hard as you can, resting 20 to 30 seconds and going again, and giving yourself a minimum threshold of power that you have to keep, and do that for sustained periods amounts of time, and then try to level that up over time, and then you'll find that your power output is going to stay high over the course of a long match or fight. Again, you can do this with med balls or even kettlebells with like swings or snatches or cleans. Again, trying to maintain high forces of output for a prolonged period amount of time. So with your slams, you can do those recoiled, you can do them standing, you can do them at a wall, you can do them throwing. It doesn't really matter as long as you feel like you're giving some oomph and power to the exercise for a prolonged period amount of time, but there's still going to be periods of rest because again, in the sport, you're probably not going to actually be going hard for 2 minutes straight. You're going to step back, get a breather, go again. Step back, get a breather, go again. You're going to have these bursts, and again, repeated power. So find something that you like, again, out of any of those things that I mentioned would be great, and just try to chip away at it for 10 to 20 seconds and rest 10 to 20 seconds, somewhere around there, and go again, and then you can kind of break those up over time, develop your repeated power, and you'll find it's going to help you have that match-like endurance that you're really trying to get. All right, building off our repeated power, the next thing is gonna be rotational med ball throws. So I know these can be shot put, scoop tosses, rotational, recoiled slams, anything like that, but trying to develop the fascia system to be snappy, be explosive, but also when it comes to throwing punches or doing any kind of throw or anything like that, we are rotating about our body as we go to do that. So whether that be a shot put, whether that be a scoop toss, whether that be a recoiled slam, those are all gonna mimic rotational power that's gonna use not only our midsection and our trunk and our abs, but also our hips. When it comes to throwing punches or taking shots or throws, everything's coming from the hips through that triple extension. So we want to get our hips and some triple extension involved whenever we can, but also still making sure that our abdominals are good and strong. And that's going to give us that elastic recoil based power, or that repeated power, again going back to the energy system development. But these are you're going to do for more explosive. Give yourself plenty of rest because again, you're after the power. Whatever kind of med ball that you're using, the med ball should be on the lighter side over the heavier side. Again, we're after power, not how much strength can you produce, how much force you can produce. You'll find that med ball that feels good where you've got that snap, but it's got some power behind it, but it's not going to feel slow. Okay, so probably 4, 6, maybe 8 pounds if you're like an elite athlete, and usually doing all of your stuff with med balls like that is going to be fine. If you really want to take this to the next level, you can pair several med ball exercises together. You can do some scoops, you can do some shot puts, you can do some slams, rest 60, 90 seconds, repeat, because you know you're going to have to do multiple things again. That kind of goes back to our repeated power, but you can even do it in a med ball circuit fashion if you're short on time or you're just trying to get as much throws in as you possibly can. All right, the next group of exercises is going to be landmine work, and in particular, rotational or anti-rotational landmine work. So that can be half kneeling presses, that could be rota presses to where you're throwing the landmine, that could be rotations with the actual landmine, getting your hips, and again, that trunk control, really trying to develop some abs because you are gonna have to throw and move people in weird positions. Doesn't really matter which combat sport, but using the landmine is a fantastic piece. Again, we're gonna develop some upper body strength if we really want to do that. You can even do some rows with it, develop some upper body strength on the backside. You could do different lunge variations, but the big thing I'm really after here is resisting rotation and creating rotation. That's the unique part about the landmine, is that you've got some different options that you can do with how you move it versus standard like dumbbell or kettlebell, and you can still be explosive with it as well. So you can use this to develop power, you can use this to develop strength, you can use this to develop size even if you need to. You can do lower body, upper body. There's tons of uses for the landmine, but the big thing here is make sure you're using it in some capacity in almost all shapes and forms, whether you're trying to develop that power, that strength, or that size. And regardless of which one you're trying to do, I would really make sure, again, you're trying to resist and create motion. Don't go too far down one side or down the other. There's different stances from half kneeling, tall kneeling, split stance. You can do it from a short seated position. Again, we talked about doing rows and presses. We talked about you can do Russian twists with them. There's tons of options out there. So just make sure you're using it in some capacity. As long as you're getting some good quality strength and power work, you're gonna be checking a good box there. All right, the final exercise, I can't go without saying some kind of deadlift. And for my combat people, I really like doing this sumo deadlift. You can even do these off of blocks. You can do them with reverse bands. You can do them with chains or bands. It doesn't really matter as long as you're sumo deadlifting to some capacity. And the big reason is hip strength. You have to have strong hips if you're a wrestler, if you're a fighter, if you're a combat sport athlete. You're usually in a wide athletic stance all the time. You're moving side to side, you're pushing back and forth, you're picking people up, you're slamming them, you're throwing them. You're gonna be using your hips in a wide athletic stance a lot in your sport. The other benefits, you're gonna obviously get some grip work as well, because you're gonna have to hold on to that bar, but getting that good quality hip strength, strong adductors, strong hips, strong back, developing, pushing through the forward in that stance is going to help you in a lot of different ways in your sport. So just train this for general strength. If you happen to be feeling banged up, you can do this for speed and power as well against bands and chains. Doesn't really matter, but just make sure you're sumo deadlifting heavy on the regular to keep those hips strong and be able to produce as much force as you can when it comes to your fighting. All right, that's all I've got today. Thanks for checking in. If you got any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I'd like to know what exercises you thought I missed that might be able to help you be a better combat sport. You can put them in the comment section below. Keep checking in every week for more videos like this. Thanks, we'll see you at the next one.